Poke the Bear is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
And welcome into Poke the Bear episode 319, presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5. And we're presented by Game Time. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off that first purchase. Terms, they apply. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That is Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm pretty hyped. It's the most wonderful time of the year. I got my azalea hat on, and I got my BU shirt on. It's a busy day today. It's a good day. Hopefully, it's a good day. Check in later on today and see how I'm doing. I could have a tummy ache. I'm gonna have a tummy ache anyway, depending on what happens in the game. If not the Bruins, if BU wins or loses,
or if the Bruins win.
Let me tell you, if the Bruins beat the Blackhawks, then once again, which maybe won't be much of a surprise, but that is a different hurdle altogether. But I'm just saying, I'm probably going to be watching that maybe more of what's happening on the BU game on my laptop than what's happening on the ice tonight at the Garden. But that's
going to be tough for you because that's hard, man. Like to have the Bruins in front of you, and that's your job. But then you have BU and Penn State at 8:30. Now, hopefully, for your sake, you're one of the only people that this would apply to. Maybe the Western Michigan Denver game goes to like 3 overtimes, and then BU ends up playing at like 10, and then you can watch it.
It does feel like the first game of like one of these like kind of doubleheader things for college hockey. It always seems like that one does go to like second overtime or something like that. So maybe it's like, still the second period by the time I get home at like 11 o'clock. So that's what I'm hoping for, at least.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so there you go. But so hopefully, I gotta say, Connor, no bias. I have BU beating Denver in the national championship game. So
I hope that happens, Evan. Let me tell you. I will tell you if
that would be the ultimate bragging right.
Listen, I'm not going to get ahead of myself because Penn State, that is, I would probably say they're the new Cinderella, right? They keep on just getting results. They've had a great run. Really, really good team. Davis, the goalie for Denver, scares the shit out of me. That's
Sicko
just one
mode.
of those. Yeah, he's a psycho. So, again, I've had a few people text me, like, you think BU's like a favorite or anything like that? Probably not. But I was like, you know what? At this point, you get in the tournament, anyone can win. People thought BC was going to smoke Denver. And then Davis went and became a sicko. So,
yeah, Davis
who knows what happens? I mean, even like in 2015, right? Like, if BU and Providence actually played that game and it didn't get canceled, like that Providence team, like had a lot of really good players. Like Lehman is a great coach. Like they had a lot of guys, really structured, system. John Gillies is a great goalie. If they played that game, I could totally see like Providence beating BU in that one as well. It's a shame that it never happened.
They never played that game. It was
It's all like the Zamboni like exploded or something, or I forget like what it was.
The lights went out.
The lights went out. Everything went wrong. Yeah, it was like the Cloverfield monster came and hit like punched the guy and went back into the Mystic. It was
like
weird.
Bane coming out of the field in Dark Knight Rises.
Yes.
Yeah. Bane came out of the ice.
It was weird, dude. Like I don't know. It's too bad because two really good teams. I'm obviously biased with BU, but if they did play that championship game in 2015, I think it would have been a good game and it would have been a toss-up. Like as good as BU was, anyone can win this time of the year. So we'll see what happens on Thursday.
Anybody can win. I always love that. It's so true. Such a nice, fun little cliche. On the side of the Bruins, obviously 3 games left. And then
do you think that like someone is listening to this? I'm sorry to cut you off. Do you think someone's like now like Wikipediaing like, did the Zamboni explode in 2015?
I was just thinking like someone's definitely like, wait, no, there definitely was a game in 2015, and they're looking it up to make sure
it wasn't.
It's
but
the Mandela effect.
Someone,
it's the Mandela effect. It never happened.
Yeah, it never did. Anyway, I'm sorry. Let's not talk about the past and games that never happened. Let's talk about the future and what the Bruins are up to.
Do you really want to talk about what the Bruins are up to at the moment?
Not really, but I don't want to talk about 2015 either.
It's funny because you got 3 games left: Chicago, Pittsburgh, New Jersey, and then you're off the roller coaster. You're off the ride, and it's unfortunate these are the last 3 games not because they're the last 3 games. Although I will miss hockey in between that time. But Chicago is worse than you. They're the worst team second worst team in the league. Pittsburgh, you've got to lose to. You can't win that game. Like you've got to lose.
Sneaky big game on Sunday.
Yeah, like you got to lose Pittsburgh. And then New Jersey, do they sit everybody? Like, that scares me too.
They can play their full squad and they play like they did on Tuesday. I don't think it's going to matter. That team feels like they are just limping into the playoffs.
They are.
About to get punched in the mouth.
Absolutely. So I dare I say I worry about the Bruins winning the next 3 games and falling to pick like 7 or whatever it might be and falling out of the top 5. But we've talked a lot about the draft and things like that. One thing that we've touched on a little bit is David Pastrnak. David Pastrnak has had, I was going to say, potentially the best season of his career, given the circumstances. I don't think that's insane. He has a 60-goal season. He's had higher producing seasons in the past. But what he's done this year, man, like, started off slow. I think he's, 4th in the league in points?
Yes.
5th in goals. Just an incredible run. I definitely deserves Hart Trophy hype. I think probably 3rd or 4th. Might be lower just because he's on a bad team. So like might end up being 5th. But definitely deserves recognition.
Yeah, I think it is the best year of his career. When I think you just look at the team around him, right? Like when he had the 60-goal season 2 years ago, he was part of a wagon of a team, right? Like not saying that he didn't play a key role in that.
Carried.
Yeah, like he was without a doubt like a Hart Trophy level player. It was funny. He was 2nd that year in Hart Trophy voting, which I had him like top 5, but I don't think I had him 2 because I think that was a sum of their parts kind of team. A team just had talent all over the place.
That was
right?
2019-20, right?
No, 22-23. The record breaking.
22-23. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So that was the first year when he hit triple digits, and he was awesome last year on a team that overachieved and maybe didn't have the same personnel, but still had a lot of guys playing above their level, and you had a functioning power play, all those things. To do what he's doing now, to be 4th in the league, to lead the entire NHL in 5-on-5 points, which I think is also validates that he's doing it without relying on a top 5 power play, right? I think he's also leading the NHL in primary points, like goals and primary assists as well. And I think it's like not even close. I think Kucherov is 2nd. He's like 6 or 7 behind Pastrnak, I believe. So when you look at just the production he has, it would already be impressive if he was like a point per game guy. Like even if you probably 5 years from now, you look at like Hockey Reference and look at that 1 year where he had 82 points, you're like, what the hell happened there? And then you get the context. The fact that you're going to look 5 years down the road and just see 100, and not maybe even realize for some Bruins fans of how awful this year was, right? Like if someone's looking 10 years down the road, you'd be like, oh, Pastrnak was just a wagon, and they don't know how terrible the 24-25 season was, you wouldn't be able to discern it because of just how dominant he's been. I mean, this is a guy that, the 3rd Bruin in franchise history to have 3 straight 100-point seasons alongside Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito. Pretty good company to be in. He's had, 13 consecutive goals that he factored into going into Tuesday's game or in the middle of Tuesday's game, which I think the only other players that have had a streak that long in the NHL are Jaromir Jagr, Wayne Gretzky, and Mario Lemieux. So pretty good company to be in. So I think when you look at the supporting cast around him, and again, it's not to like crap on guys, right? Like Geeky's had a really awesome year. They've had some guys that he's meshed with really well, but that he's putting up 100 points and he's right there with guys like Nathan McKinnon, who has, had Rantanen, but also has killed Makar. You've got Kucherov, who has Point and Hagel and Gensel, all those guys, especially on the power play. And you got Draisaitl, who I know McDavid's been hurt, but they're a cheat code on the power play together. Like, the fact that he's right in the same tier as those players offensively with what he's had to work with, he absolutely does deserve Hart Trophy consideration. Will he win it? No. I don't even know. Is he going to get 4th or 5th? I don't know if that's even going to be the case. I was looking at 2 years ago when Erik Karlsson had 101 points for that awful San Jose team, right? Without a doubt, the best player on that team, first NHL player to have 100 points as a defenseman in like over 25 years. I think Logan Couture was 2nd on the team with like 63 points. It wasn't even close. He was Karlsson was a beast. Won the Norris deservedly. He had like 3 fourth place votes and like 5 fifth place votes for the Hart. He wasn't even like, I think, top 10 in the voting. So I don't think David Pastrnak, is going to get the same love just because the team is not good around him, but it has not been at all because of him. I think he's proven that he's not just a star player. He's a generational offensive talent that if you are trying to find any sort of silver linings or positives about where this team is, if this is rock bottom and you're building up, shit, you got a really good building block to work with for the next couple of years because he's just been unbelievable.
I think it's the tough thing with the Karlsson part was like, I think he was so far ahead of the rest of the pack in points, how you factor in with defensemen. Whereas like there are guys around Pastrnak points wise. As you said, though, the biggest thing is the cast. To do it with this team, to do it with this group. And I think this is why I keep going back to, obviously, yes, you want a number one center down the road. I'm not saying that shouldn't be a priority. I think it absolutely is. But for the short term, you're not getting that number one center unless a crazy trade pops up. Pastrnak is good enough to drive a line. You can drive a line on the wing. He's proven that this year. He proved it last year. But really this year, turning Morgan Geekie into a 30-goal scorer and Zacha into a consistent point guy. Elias Lindholm is now working with David Pastrnak. Like, just the rate at which he has been producing. I mean, again, he has 14 points in 5 games this month, which is just insane. He had 13.
I can't even do that in be a player in NHL. You do that like during training camp, and it feels like you're doing too much, and then you sim. And it's like, all right, well, I put up like 28 points in 6 games, so I'm going to make the team. Then you sim the rest of the preseason. It's like, yeah, you're going back to the OHL. You didn't back check when we simmed the game.
That's right. You were out on the ice for a little bit too long.
Yeah, you were out for too long. You scored 3 goals. Yeah.
So again, I mean, just 13 points last month, 12 in February, and then that was with shortened with 4 nations, 24 in January. 15 in December, November was 12, and October was 10. Remember, he started out kind of slow. So to just pick up the pace the way he has and to play the way he has this year, I think he's absolutely deserving of Hart Trophy hype. And again, I will slam the table. I will, with my hand is the gavel. You can't waste this guy's prime. You can't. You cannot. It is imperative that you continue to find ways to contend. Even if, as we've talked about, that's being around a wild card team to wait until the prospects that you draft and develop get developed and come to Boston. You cannot sink to the bottom. And you absolutely cannot trade David Pastrnak. I can't. The whole discourse around that. It's not everybody. You see it on Twitter here and there. You'll hear, Felger mention it. And it's like, really? You would trade David Pastrnak? I will never understand that logic, because I mean, again, like trading Pastrnak would be similar to trading Mookie Betts, if not worse.
Yeah. And again, you look at especially in the NHL where you can, not be right back at it the next year, but make significant strides forward. And again, as much as this team has been a train wreck this year, I still am of the belief that this team's going to be in the mix for playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to finish second, third in the Atlantic, right? Like, there's a lot of already pretty established teams. You got teams like Montreal and Ottawa that are obviously going to do the mix again, but I fully expect the Bruins to be right in the mix for a wild card spot next year and continuing to build, hopefully, off of that. Like, NHL is different from some other franchises where you can show progress, or you can see kind of the end of the road or the light at the end of the tunnel pretty quickly if you just get your stuff in order, right? It's not a set formula, but if you have the talent, especially, and you've got younger players stepping in, like, you can see what you need to do moving forward. So I think trading a guy like Pastrnak, would be really, really short-sighted in terms of just how transformative of a player he is. He's not just a 40, 50 goal scorer, superstar player. He is like a generational offensive talent. And I think he's seen that the last couple of years.
Absolutely. I want to get into sort of some of the youngsters showed really well against New Jersey the other night. Just like, man, if only you could have picked a different game earlier in the season or something. But first, our friends over at Prize Picks. Springtime is here, and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks lineup, whether it's strikeouts, RBI, or first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Today on Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. There's also the second half of the basketball season, and that's here. And the push to the playoffs is heating up on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. While the Bruins, you could do Pastrnak or Geeky the last couple games, but the Celtics continue to cruise. I know they lost to the Magic on Wednesday night, but they're still nasty. And the Red Sox, the bats have been kind of slow this week, but hopefully things start to pick up. Maybe Devers or Bregman or one of those guys. So at any rate, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Run your game over at Prize Picks. So, Bruins crushed the Devils on Tuesday. They brought it. 7-2 win. Encouraging stuff from younger guys. Fabian Lysell gets his first point. Michael Callahan scores his first goal. I always feel so good for players when they score their first NHL goal, especially defensemen and sort of like fringe NHL defensemen, because it's like, all right, the monkey's off your back. Like, it's one thing, and this is incredible that I'm saying this. This is going to sound so like elitist. It's one thing to say you played some games in the NHL, but it's a bigger thing to say I scored a goal. And I'm not saying Michael Callahan's never scoring again. Yes, I'm not saying he's never scoring again. He probably will, but just get it out of the way.
Hat trick tonight.
I hope he. Well, I don't know if I hope he does. Maybe next season, not tonight,
yes.
Not Thursday night. But the Fraser Minton scored a goal. Overall, a good look from the young guys.
Yeah, it's exactly what we were talking about when I think in the middle of that losing streak where we're trying to find any sort of positives. And it's like, well, if the young guys can show that they have something to give, they have something to offer, especially for next year, you take that as a step forward. And I think I don't think you're making any sweeping conclusions off of this stretch of games, but at least you're seeing what guys need to do to make an impact, right? Like Fraser Minton's, I think has been as advertised as a really smart two-way guy. He's not flashy, but does a lot of little things well. And if he can chip in and contribute here and there, I think he's a guy that, has the potential to be like a third line stalwart kind of player, right? And I know Bruins fans like, why do they always bring in these guys who aren't top six? I think like Fraser Minton was a guy that was really valued in Toronto, had a really, really high floor, but like a floor, I'm not saying that where he's going to be like a 10-goal, 25-point guy. Like I think he could be kind of your next Charlie Coyle in due time. He's 20 years old, so he needs some time to grow and develop, but I really like what he can provide. And it's kind of what we've talked about before, Evan, where this team is just so desperate for NHL bodies. If you're filling out your lineup and next year a guy like Fraser Minton can step into a role and just, you don't have to worry about his spot in the lineup, right? You've got a guy that can be a third line stalwart. You can play him in all situations. He can continue to develop. I think that's a win, right? For both him and also you as you're trying just to fill out your roster with homegrown talent, which is what he is now in the system. So I thought he was good. I even thought like Lysell, he gets his first point, but I thought he was really assertive, really make things happen with the puck. And I think it's encouraging to see. That's a guy that hadn't produced in his first 8 games in the NHL. And I don't know if he flipped a switch or anything like that, but just seemed a lot more comfortable. Wasn't like was playing to his strengths, right? Was really moving his feet, being aggressive, but also not putting himself in bad spots, right? Like, and again, it's never, I think, going to be perfect. Joe Sacco even said like the main thing he needs to work on is not really his defensive game. It's just board work and stuff like that he'd have to continue to refine. But if he plays,
he had a tough game in Buffalo. I thought.
Yeah, he got scratched. And it was unfortunate. Right? He gets scratched, and then he comes back into the lineup and really struggled. And you're like, or is it kind of just throwing his whole momentum or whatever it is off, just getting scratched for that one game? Because I think at this point, a lot of it has to do with confidence and just settling into a groove. And it's not easy adjusting to the NHL. But I thought that that game against New Jersey, he played to his strengths and did what he had to do to impact the game. And if he can do that, then, and continue to build that momentum, it's a step in the right direction. I think if we're looking at one thing to keep tabs on for this game on Thursday night against Chicago, beyond the fact that them winning continues to kind of hurt their draft odds, but if Lysell can continue to look comfortable, make plays happen, and it's also probably a good matchup for him where, just like how the Devils, that was a pretty open ice kind of game. I don't think Chicago is very adept at defending or doing most things well.
No, they're not.
So this could be a game where it gives him an opportunity to kind of build off of what he did the last game. And I think if you're the Bruins and you're Lysell, you're looking for any sort of positives. And if he can continue to play well down the stretch, gives you some hope of maybe he has more to give moving forward, as opposed to, I think probably before that game on Tuesday, we're all like, is this kind of what he is? Is he just a guy that's not geared for the NHL or maybe just for this Bruins team? And I think he took a step forward. So let's see if we can take another step forward on Thursday night.
I agree. I think he's absolutely someone to watch. And again, when I think, unless he goes off in these next 3 games, which again would be very Bruins for Fabian Lysell to finally hit when they kind of need him least. I think we're going to look back and go, all right, well, he got 12 games in the league and the points weren't that high and he had some ups and downs. And I just wonder, do the Bruins come back next year and say, all right, well, internal competition, he can fight for a roster spot, or does, Lysell look to find another opportunity? Do they keep him in Providence? I'm very curious to see how things trend with him. Another young guy who's going to be getting a look against Chicago on Thursday, Riley Duran gets called up. Woburn kid, Providence College kid. He's had a solid season down in Providence. His father actually is still the coach at Woburn High, which is awesome, Jimmy Duran. So very happy to see Riley get a call up to the bigs, and I hope he scores. Riley Duran, I'm very happy for him, and I hope he succeeds. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think a good opportunity for him. He's a guy that I think, especially opening the season, was pretty high on because he really impressed in a very limited amount of time with Providence last year, making the jump. It's confusing saying from Providence College to Providence Bruins,
yes.
But from college to the AHL, he impressed last year. He mentioned this year, bit of an adjustment like any player in terms of the schedule, just adjusting from the college environment and just that scheduling to where now it's your job 24/7. It's just hockey. But I think especially as of late, he's really kind of improved his game. I know Mark Diverdown, who's been covering P Bruins for a long, long time, has said that he's really impressed the last couple of weeks playing in a top 6 role, playing a simplified kind of game. And he's a guy that, you want to see if, if he can produce, but if he can just play his game. He's a guy that I think if you're looking at the 4th line next year, I think the one guy you can probably pencil in is Mark Kastelik. And after that, you've got a whole lot of options, right? Like you can see what you want to do with Johnny Beecher. You can see what you want to do with Husin Nadinov. You can see what you want to do with Johnny, I almost said, trying to think who else. There's a whole bunch of guys that are in that mix.
Jimmy Haggs,
of course. But there's a lot of guys in the running. Cole Koepke, if
Lauko.
Durant can Lauko, right? So, and if a guy like Durant can, play a pretty simplified north-south physical game, which is kind of what his calling card was, maybe he's in the mix as well. So I think it is a good audition for him and see if he can build some momentum going to next year because, other than Kastelik, I really don't know who's locked into probably a roster spot in that bottom 6 right now.
I think this is something we'll probably get into more in the offseason, but I think their bottom 6 could end up looking a hell of a lot different next year. Different guys, prospects, things like that. So that'll be something we can talk about instead of talking about draft stuff all the time in the offseason. We'll do maybe a whole episode on the 3rd and 4th lines. I'm sure it'll be riveting. That's for sure. Let's get into 2 players just got shut down. We'll get to that in a bit, but first, our friends over at Game Time, and it's a heck of a time of year, Connor. Spring. Now, this week has been a little chilly, very chilly, actually, rainy. Maybe not the best time to say it's springtime, but it's still April. It was 75 on Friday, and it's going to get nicer. It should get nicer starting the end of this week and into next. And it's a good time to go to a ball game. Also a good time to go to a Celtics game or any event that you can think of. And that's where our friends over at Game Time come into play. There's Game Time Picks. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. There's all-in pricing. This, personally, is my favorite feature. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. There's seat views. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Lowest price guarantee. Your Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And there's Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CLNS, and you get yourself $20 off. Download Game Time today. Connor, what time is it?
Game time.
It's game time. It's game time. Bruins announced that McAvoy and Kastelik shut down for the season. Not much of a huge surprise here. I didn't expect either of them back, especially these final 3 games. There'd be no reason to be like, all right, guys, go risk potentially flaring these injuries back up again in meaningless games. Both, I think Kastelik was really one of the surprises of this season. Clearly a guy that you can build around on that fourth line, fits sort of that toughness identity, especially if they go in more of a speed skill direction going forward. You do have the toughness element with a guy like Kastelik. And I think McAvoy, for him, I think the big thing is next season and kind of regaining form and getting back to that when the next season comes around.
Yeah, they the Bruins saw that they beat the Devils on Tuesday and like, no, we can't do this anymore.
Sorry, guys.
It does seem like for them, like these guys are both trying to get back out there. McAvoy obviously has been skating without a red non-contact jersey the last couple of days, but just seems like the runway kind of ran out more than anything, which was, I think, to be expected. But yeah, as you said, even if they were healthy, you don't want to run the risk of these guys getting hurt in what is now meaningless games. And I get it. Like, it sucks for a guy like McAvoy who's, flew up to the West Coast to be with his teammates, knows that it sucks not being around guys, especially when this year's kind of gone off the rails as it has for a guy that views himself as one of the leaders of this team, especially moving forward. It's unfortunate with his injury. Dealt with injuries kind of all year long too. He was dealing with, I think it was a wrist issue, even like before the Four Nations that was bothering him. So, yeah, it sucks for him, sucks for Kastelik, who, as you said, I think really exceeded expectations where people thought he was going to be just a fourth line contributor, but he looks like a guy that kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Corrali, where has size, has a lot of speed though, but also can mix things up and can produce at a reasonable clip for a fourth line player. So 2 guys that, yeah, you'd rather them rest up, get healthy, get motivated for next year, because even though they barely have 2 very different roles in different spots in the lineup, are tasked with kind of key areas on that depth chart that you need them to really kind of shore up going into next year.
And we will never forget Koepke, Beecher, and Kastelik to start the season and the scoring prowess they were on carrying the Bruins.
Bruins might be getting like Matthew Schaefer if that fourth line didn't go like a sicko mode the first 10 days of the season. So
now that's a column. That's a call. There's a story. That's a whole
butterfly. That's like the butterfly effect, right? Of like if Cole Koepke didn't become Wayne Gretzky for the first 10 days, the Bruins would have Matthew Schaefer right now.
The Bruins would have Michael Misa as their number 1 center going forward. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, you can read me over at the Globe and Boston.com. I have covered every step of the way this Bruins season, and especially going into the off season with recaps, features. Had a new feature that just dropped about the Bruins hat trick trophy collection that they have inside the team facility at the Garden. So please read that if you want to know what happened to the bear suit, the squid hat, all kind of the hits, the pink cowboy hat that Marchand had. All that stuff is at TD Garden, collected by the team. So please read my stuff over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe. And if you also want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. I'll tell you, Connor, that story made me feel a little better. When I was a kid, I used to be like, man, I'm going to throw this hat and like, where's it going to go? I feel like if I was a kid or an adult or fan throwing a hat, I'd be like, hell yeah, they keep it. Like, that's awesome, and there's a chance a player could pick it up. It made me kind of, if I could go back and tell younger Evan, like, throw your hat.
Yes.
I don't think I was ever in a game with a hat trick, though.
It means there's going to be some crazy shit thrown on the ice moving forward now.
Right? It's all Conor Ryan's fault for telling.
It's gonna be someone's gonna make their own impromptu Wally the Green Monster head, and they're gonna throw that on the ice.
The joke's over. It's
Yeah.
like
No,
no
that's
more
it.
waiting for the home runs. That's
Yeah.
it. It's done. Well, yes, that feature was very well written, and I highly recommend people go check it out. That's Conor Ryan. I'm F. Marinofsky, Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your week.